You said, and I'm quoting you, where procreation is in principle impossible, marriage is irrelevant. You went on to say it was irrelevant and not needed.
Since when is needing something the only reason you're allowed to have it? I need food. I want barbecue. You gonna tell me I'm only allowed to have protein and vitamins now? Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. You'd think the gay marriage debate would be over thanks to the Supreme Court ruling, but obviously not, given the way some government clerks are raising a fuss over having to provide marriage licenses. I'd like to believe that after a couple of years of the sky failing to fall, religious people will calm the hell down. But that's probably optimistic of me. So here is some footage of someone trying to justify being against gay marriage. It's old, from an Illinois Senate debate Barack Obama is running, but it's still fairly relevant, so here we go.
What about marriage between people who are well beyond their childbearing age? Irrelevant? Not needed?
No, it's simply a misunderstanding. The word in principle means relating to the definition of, not relating to particular circumstances. So if an apple has a worm in it, the worm is not part of the definition of the apple. It doesn't change what the apple is in principle.
But not being able to have children would take something away from this metaphorical apple, not add to it. It's cutting out a slice, that's all. And gay marriage is not adding something to the apple, it's just a different type. It's a Golden Delicious versus a Granny Smith. This is like saying that an Irish drinking song isn't music because it's not heavy metal. It's ridiculous.
An individual who is impotent or another who is infertile does not change the definition of marriage in principle. Because between a man and a woman, in principle, procreation is always possible. And it is that possibility which gave rise to the institution of marriage in the first place.
And that is completely wrong. In fact, it doesn't take much research to see that it's wrong. Allow me to quote from Wikipedia. The definition of marriage varies according to different cultures, but it is principally an institution in which interpersonal relationships, usually sexual, are acknowledged. You'll note it says in which interpersonal relationships are acknowledged, and that it says usually sexual, not procreative, sexual. And it specifically says that this is the case in principle. And tell me, just how many people get married just, or even primarily, to have children? Don't people normally consider marriage first out of love? Children may be a natural consequence of most marriages, but it's not the reason for them.
But when it is impossible, as between two males or two females, you're talking about something that's not just incidentally impossible, it's impossible in principle. And that means that if you say that that's a marriage, you are saying marriage can be understood in principle apart from procreation.
Which it is. I know he doesn't like that or want to believe it, but marriage is about committing yourself to another person, not shoving out a nipple nibbler every couple of years. One has to wonder, does this guy really believe what he's saying, or is it just a justification, a pretext for enforcing his homophobia on everybody else?
You have changed its definition in such a way as, in fact, to destroy the necessity for the institution. Since the only reason it has existed in human societies and civilizations was to regulate, from a social point of view, the obligations and responsibilities attendant upon procreation.
So joint ownership of property, hospital visitation rights, inheritance rights, etc. None of that means a damn unless the couple in question have the complementary genitals, functional or not, necessary to attempt pregnancy. Love? Nah. Marriage is only allowed if you've got a twat and a pecker. Duh.
So when you start playing games in this way, you are actually acting as if the institution has no basis independent of your own arbitrary whim.
I'll grant you the whim, but it's hardly arbitrary. Whether they match yours or not, if you don't see some very specific trends in the reasons people get hitched, you're either incredibly unobservant, irretrievably stupid, or deliberately ignoring what you find inconvenient. And remember, where there's a whim, there's a way. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.
Yeah.